Hey guys, it's Leatherland here from Pegasus Property. Thank you very much for watching this video. I was just going to quickly do a video talking about basically doing interior photography. So at Pegasus Property I do all of the interior photography myself. It can be outsourced to photographers, however, you know, £100, £200 per go, if you're doing a lot of projects, can get kind of expensive. So I actually invested in my own camera. And I do all the photos myself, and it's actually quite easy to do. So this video is going to cover how to do it basically. So I'm just going to flip the camera around and talk a little bit about the hardware side of things. So basically with doing interior photography, I would highly recommend getting a DSLR. So a DSLR is basically a camera with changeable lenses. So this particular lens is a Sigma, what is it? 10 to 20 mil lens. So that's the size of the lens. So it's a big old lens, as you can see. It's quite substantial, and that's a wide angle lens. So that gets the whole room in basically when I'm taking photos. That's quite important for when I'm doing interior photos. So that's a bit about the camera. This is a Canon Rebel XS, by the way. And then you've got a tripod as well. What's cool about this tripod is it's got all the spirit levels in it, which is actually quite important when you're doing a photo, which I'll explain in a bit. So now I'm just going to show you a little bit about the camera. So when I actually got a DSLR camera, I thought, bloody hell, this is complicated. It's got loads of these options on it and I don't know what to do. So basically, if you want to do proper photos, so to speak, you want to go into manual mode. So every camera will have manual mode on it. You turn it on. Basically with a camera, you've got three main things you want to consider. You've got the shutter speed, and then you've got the f, which is just to the right of the 1/8. So the 1/8 is the shutter speed, and the f11 is the aperture, effectively. And then you have something called ISO as well. So with interior photos, I recommend basically ISO 100, which is the minimum. So ISO will let a lot of extra light in, but it will make the photo very grainy. And then f11 is what I use for my particular lens. I think different lenses have different sweet spots, but I like using f11 because it basically focuses the camera right across the room. And then shutter speed, I actually kind of cheat on this. So I change the shutter speed depending on basically how the picture looks on my display. So I'll show you that in a sec, explain how I do it. So yeah, so that's a little bit about the camera itself, but actually taking the photo. So that I'm just stood in a room now of a project we've just basically finished. The guy's just doing a bit of snagging at the minute, and this is the one I'm going to use as an example. So what I like to do is I like to walk into a room and I like to obviously imagine what the picture's going to look like when I take it and what the best angle's going to be. So I mean, if you're looking at this room, you know, that's a pretty cool angle. It's like if I was shooting a photo from this angle, that's going to look pretty cool. Like there's a lot getting into the picture. And if I was on the other side of the room, taking a picture across this way, it's a bit more boring, isn't it? It's just a door, basically, and a TV. Doesn't look great. Same from this angle. But you get the picture. So what I would do is I would basically walk into a room, maybe just set up your tripod and just take a photo from each angle. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to put them on top of this video so you can see what the different angles looks like. Right, so I've taken a photo from each corner of the room, and it became quite clear to me very quickly that shooting with the door behind me, looking across the room with all of this cool stuff going on, like the stairs and the shelves and the wall art and the hallway going back as well. It's PIR, so it's motion sensitive, so I'll have to run, get it turned on motion-wise, then take the picture. But that's going to be the best photo. I think you agree. So what's next is actually setting the camera up for the photo. So I'll show you that now. You're basically setting the camera up. You want to get as far into the corner as you can. Get your tripod, set up the legs, and get your spirit level. Now, when you're taking a photo, typically you look through here, and if you look through there, there'll be dots. You want to get those dots lined up. Ideally, into the corner of the room. So it becomes quite apparent if you look down the lens what the corner is. But if I go into display mode, which is my little cheat thing that I do, it now shows me what the camera is actually looking at. So I can see what the middle is. So the middle of the room is kind of that stair banister basically. So that's what I'm going to line up on. It's important to line the camera up with the verticals because wide angle lenses can distort photos and make the corners bend slightly. In fact, I don't know if you can see that, but can you see that? Can you see that chimney breast there? It kind of almost looks like it's bending slightly. So that's what the lens does, unfortunately. So we correct that. So it's very important that the vertical dots are lined up with the corner of the room. So now that the camera is ready, this is my little cheat thing that I do. So like I said, you've got ISO, you've got the F, and then you've got the shutter speed. And the shutter speed is one of the most important bits. So I can change the shutter speed. So that's going to be how long it takes for the shutter to go cheek, and the slower it is, the more light it lets in. So it takes longer. Basically, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to look down here and go, yeah, that brightness is about right. I don't want it to be too bright because it can actually like burn colours away, which I can't get back later. So it's sometimes better to go slightly darker and then artificially add more light in. So I think that's quite cool. So the next thing really is I'm going to walk around the room and I'm just going to make sure cushions are in the right place, that bottle of water on the coffee table's been moved, little things like that. Just I don't want those things obviously in the final picture. So I'm just going to go and do that now. Cool, so that's done. So I've just run around the room and basically had a little bit of a tidy up. So I've just moved a couple of things. Still not perfect. I mean, there's still a little bit of dirt down there. Where's my finger? Dirt down there behind the sofa, etc. But you get the idea. So now you might be wondering about the tripod thing, like why do you use a tripod? Obviously it helps with keeping the camera straight, but another thing that's great about it is that when we touch the camera to take a picture, it's moving, it's shaking ever so slightly, even on a tripod. You know, whilst if you were holding it and moving around, of course it's moving all over the place. So when you're trying to do a slow shutter speed, because it's moving, it makes the picture blurry basically. So the camera needs to be perfectly still, nice slow shutter speed, lots of light coming in, and it's just going to give you a really high quality picture basically. So I need to run down that corridor and get that light to come on and run back and hide behind the camera whilst I take the picture. So I'm just going to do that now. There we go. And go. Did it go off then just as it took the picture? Maybe. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm probably going to do it a few more times just to make sure it's bang on. But yeah, so next I'm going to do the post-production. So this is how I do the editing side on the computer side, which is where all the magic happens. So stay tuned. So I'm back in the office now. So I just wanted to say quickly, before leaving site, always go through your photos. You can zoom in and out and you can have a really good look at them, because the last thing you want to do is leave site, get back to the office to do some post-editing and the photos don't look quite right for some reason. So make sure you do that. Before I go on to the post-editing side of things, I just wanted to quickly mention money. So I forgot to talk about costs and stuff. So the reason I'm doing this video is I'm trying to say basically it's more affordable potentially for you to go out and buy your own camera and learn how to do this than it is to pay for a photographer. It's very enjoyable doing it yourself. If you're a bit of a creative person, it's really great fun, and you have full control over how your photos are going to look. You know, you can tweak the room and tweak the cushions and tweak all the little ornaments until it looks, you know, really great. And that's what I like about doing it myself. And from a cost perspective, if a photographer is charging you £100 to £200 a go, then within 2 to 3 times that, you could have bought a camera with the lens as well. So I got this second hand with the lens and a load of other gear as well for about £500, which is pretty good. I think this lens on its own is about £600 brand new. I'll double check that. But I've got another friend who took my advice and he bought all of his own gear as well for between 500 and 600 quid. Now, you don't need loads of fancy camera equipment and loads of lighting rigs and all the other stuff that you can get. You just need the body, the lens, and a tripod. That's it really. And a bit of good practice, always keep the lens cap on whenever you transport the camera. even after taking a photo, I put it back on again straight away, because this lens is worth a lot of money, and one little scratch, well, you get the idea. So anyway, in the back of the camera is an SD card, so you can remove that and stick it into the computer, or by cable or Wi-Fi or whatever you've got, Bluetooth, etc. So you do that. I'm using a MacBook Pro here because I do a lot of video and photo editing. Mac's my choice of computer. So I'm now going to go into the Mac and show you about post editing. Into post-production. So this piece of software that I'm using here is called Adobe Lightroom. So you can download this and have a free trial period, but it will cost you money eventually. But it's well worth it in my opinion, because it's a really cool piece of kit. It's kind of like Photoshop, but kind of dressed down version of it, more for photographers' use. So it's really cool. Basically, you just import the file into Lightroom, and then you have all your editing options down here. So I always go to lens correction first of all, because as you remember me before mentioning, wide angle lenses can make some of the kind of vertical lines look a bit curved, like that for example, and that one over there is slightly curved, and it also kind of squashes some of the corners. So if I click this now, it will automatically, basically it knows what lens I've used, sort of thing. You click that and it will just, see that difference? And it's just made these bits slightly better looking, and it's made the lines a bit straighter as well. And it's also added a little bit of light around the edges. So I always do that. You can select different lenses down here as well. And then I like to put this effect in, just to darken those edges back again. And then if I go to basic, so these are all the bits I use. So there's loads of features in here, but I don't use a lot of them. I just use what I need to use. So I like to use white balance. So that's kind of cool. That just balances out the colours. So that was quite subtle, but if I did something like this down here, you'll see it go so blue, you know, and basically you've got this temperature bit here, so you can just bring it back to a, you know, a nice level basically. And you can go like this and make it look warmer, you know, it's up to you. It's what you want to achieve and what you think looks good personally. So that's that bit. You've got things like exposure and contrast, and to be honest with you, you shouldn't really need to do these. If you took the photo right in the first place, then, you know, these should be kind of irrelevant, but you can kind of like tighten the picture up a little bit by just bringing that contrast up slightly, and it just, you know, it kind of, if you go the other way, you can see it kind of becoming more, I don't know, flat looking, and if you go like this, it just kind of pops it a little bit. But I'm going to leave that on 0 anyway. So what I like to do is, I like to go highlights, I like to bring my highlights down. That's really cool. If you're taking a picture with a window, quite often there'll be like loads of white glare coming through the window. If you bring that highlight down, that just takes the edge off it slightly. I like to bring shadows up. That just brings up a lot of these areas down here, just so they become a bit more prevalent in the photo. And then whites and blacks. So this is quite cool. So if you hit the function button on your keyboard and then bring that up, the second you see a little bit of white, that's you're done. And then blacks, same again. Bring it down, see a bit of black in the picture, done. That's kind of it really. Like, so I just do the same thing for every photo. I do my lens correction, I just add that cool little effect there, and then I just go to basics and I just do a white balance, just get the temperature right how I want it. I don't really do exposure or contrast. I'll bring my highlights down, bring my shadows up, do my white and blacks, and that's it. So there's a few other things here which I'm going to do in this particular photo. So on my lens, I get this spot. There's a spot removal tool here. There, you see that spot? That's on my lens, so I get that on every photo. And there's a little one there as well. So if I just click on this, it's going to take the nearest piece that looks the same and just get rid of the spot. So that's it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. You know, if obviously if I was doing this properly, all those cables wouldn't be there. The stuff on there, I would have moved the water bottle. I'll probably put that a bit better. I'll probably remove that sticker. You know, so I would spend more time and attention to detail. This is just a quick example of how to do it. So if I show you, you should be able to do before and after. So that's before and after. So, you know, personally, it looks very similar to be fair, but you can just see the verticals are slightly straighter. The spots have been removed, and it pops a little bit more for me. It's got a bit more colour to it. It's a bit more vibrant than the one on the left. So that's how you do the post-production, and then you just export the photo. So you just right click on it, export. You can add watermarks to it, like your logos and stuff like that, and that's it. So I hope this video was useful for you. It was just a quick, like I say, I'm not an expert, but this is what I do, and I've had some nice results from it. So thanks a lot for watching. Please give me some feedback and any other videos you'd like me to do as well. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much.